In the last 10 to 15 years, there has been a massive worldwide increase in the number of people taking up photography. Unlike most global trends, this has been also true for India. 21st century India is full of amateur photographers. Many of us have personal acquaintance with more than one of them. As we can guess, this was not always the case. Photography came to India in the late 1840s, when British photographers travelled to record the historical monuments and varied landscape of the country. It was a serious profession. It required a lot of time and effort, and equipments were ridiculously expensive in those days. So except a few wealthy professionals like Ahmad Ali Khan and Lala Deendayal, natives mostly stayed out of the Firang business. This continued for the next few decades, and the numbers kept increasing slowly but steadily. Meanwhile, technological advancement made it possible for the cameras to be progressively smaller, cheaper, and more powerful. The world was discovering the true potential of this new medium on a much larger scale. However, in the newly independent nation, work ethic was still rudimentary. Only a few professions were considered respectable, and like most skilled work, it was deemed unimportant and not worthy of the educated class. Two things helped change this reputation. One, continued work of eminent photojournalists like Kishore Parekh, Pablo Bartholomew, Raghu Rai in events of national and international interest. And two, economic liberalization of 1991 that introduced India to the wider world, not just economically but culturally. Western notions of individualized and liberated self became ingrained in the Indian psyche. So when in 1983 the audiences saw two photographers opening their studio and trying out their luck professionally in the cult classic Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, the message was clear. They are not to be taken seriously. Within 25 years, in Wake Up Sid, the protagonist gains respectability the moment he decides to take up the camera and do something meaningful with his life, thanks to the changing public perception. Much like Farhan Qureshi in the highly influential Three Idiots, photography came to be seen as the ultimate tool of self-expression for a generation of revitalized youth, a way to find the true calling in life, a rebellion against the conventions of family and society. Photography suddenly became cool. Somewhere in between came the biggest push: social networking websites. The world was flooded with a tsunami of user-generated content. Creating media and earning accolades for one's work became easier than ever, or so it seemed. While it is true for most other modes of self-expression as well, photography seemed particularly well suited for this Web 2.0 revolution. Click, edit, upload. Sometimes all from the same device. Lured by this ever-simplified route to self-gratification, thousands flocked in. The DSLR grabbing photo walker crouching on the street for the perfect click became the newest cultural stereotype. It has been part of common knowledge that the future or long-term viability of any profession or culture depends on the amount and quality of new people coming in. Some would argue that this democratization is the best thing to have happened to photography or 21st century media in general. As Iranian director Samira Makhmalbaf famously said about filmmaking, making films will become as cheap as doodling with pen and paper. Only then we will get true artists. But there has been growing concerns regarding the quality of the output and fear of mediocrity seeping in. In May 2016, Deepak Puri, a respected veteran, commented, "Despite the phenomenal numbers, photojournalism in India is as good as dead." However, this narrative is not unique to photography. The passionate amateur versus the detached professional debate has been raging on in all fields of traditional media: journalism, music, filmmaking, even sports. Author Andrew Keen, one of the vocal critics of Web 2.0, in his 2008 book, The Cult of the Amateur, argued,
But I think there's a problem when amateurs replace professionals, and when our whole media is flooded with amateurism, amateur content, amateur creators, amateur presenters, and ultimately an entirely amateurized media. We all lose out. Information is unreliable, entertainment is inadequate, And media is essentially undermined from the highly professional media of the 20th century. We're degenerating into the amateur media of the 21st.
He and many others suggest that the internet, by its all-inclusive nature and easy access, opens door to amateurism as authority, while at the same time devaluing the respectability of professional currency. The world is full of self-expressing amateurs, while it's getting increasingly difficult to enter the profession and stay commercially viable. As a result, the world suffers. This is not to suggest that this newly created amateur lot is completely wasted. Most traditional artisans would kill to have such enthusiastic apprentices. Professionals have a different role of their own. The future of photography depends on both of these groups. But here is the thing, the vast majority of the DSLR-men need to realize about social media. There is hardly anything social about it. What is internet but a narcissist's dream come true? It's a tool for creating a narrative about oneself, one he or she is satisfied with. In the free world of Facebook and Twitter, you are the product. It's designed to be fulfilling and addictive. They have built their entire business model on the premise that you are a total loser in complete denial of the fact, who has an incredible compulsion to share. Oxford Dictionary defines hobby as an activity done regularly for pleasure. Take a long, hard look at yourself. Where does this pleasure originate from? Is it the travels, the colors and the beautiful patterns, the excitement of getting the perfect timing? As long as it's any of the above, you should do fine. If most of the pleasure comes only after you have uploaded, I don't mean to intrude, but probably you need a new hobby. Facebook maybe?